All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jumbo. Hello, everyone in Swahili. This is Michael McCullough coming to you from the warm state of Texas. And just welcome everybody. Glad you could join us this Sunday afternoon. We are going to be continuing our talk about my recent trip to Tanzania, Africa, East Africa. And along with that, if you weren't here for part one, that was the actual presentation on the climbing of Mount Kilimanjaro. And that presentation was recorded and is available on the iBug website. There's a link there right on the homepage of the website that'll take you to a YouTube playlist. Or if you want to go directly to YouTube, just do a search for iBug Today, and under the playlist iBug Unplugged, you'll find the presentation there, Out of Africa, Part 1, Mount Kilimanjaro Climb. So, if you recall, we were into that climb and we're resting. And so I just want to kind of pick up from there. First off, again, just want to say, Abadi Mchana, good afternoon. And we're going to take just a quick break here and have everyone introduce themselves. We'd like to find out where everybody's zooming in from. Just please say your name and where you're located.
This is Dee in Southern Illinois.
Welcome, Dee.
This is Pete in Florida.
Hey,
Heather, Montreal, Canada.
Alan.
Gilda.
Welcome. And I heard Heather.
Nikki,
Jody in New Hampshire.
Hello, Nikki and Jody.
Robert, Chandler, Arizona.
Welcome, Mr. Robert.
Randy, North Carolina.
Hey, Randy.
Julie.
Hey, Angelo and Julie.
Hi.
Mary Alice, Pennsylvania.
Hello.
Valencia, Maryland.
Hey, Val.
Ned in Texas.
Ned.
Gloria, Houston.
Oh,
Dana,
Gloria.
Cincy.
Welcome.
This is Gigi in Houston.
Hey, Gigi.
I'm Michael.
Alicia in Illinois.
Miss Alicia is back. Welcome.
Jerry and Isaac in Michigan.
Welcome.
This is Arthur from Washington, D.C.
Welcome.
This is Lois from Maryland.
Welcome, Lois.
Louise, Georgia.
Hey, Louise.
Did you mute our audio?
Cindy from Alaska.
Welcome, Cindy. And once you've introduced yourself, if you'll just kindly go back on mute.
Janice from Maryland.
Hey, Janice.
Janice from Crystal Beach, Ontario.
And the other Janice, welcome.
Carol from Houston.
Hey, Carol.
Yeah,
Hey, Michael.
Muted. Oh, we're muted now, I think.
I don't think you are muted. Whoever just said that.
Dave Brown from Toronto.
Welcome.
Marie in Reno.
And Ms. Marie.
Arlene, North Carolina.
Hello, Arlene.
Hi. Elizabeth from Newfoundland.
Hey, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Oh. Uh-oh.
Anybody else?
Rosetta Stone from Conyers, Georgia.
And Rosetta, welcome.
Cynthia. Cynthia from Texas.
Hello, Cynthia.
Oh, I am unmuted. Kathy from Vancouver.
Hey, Kathy, welcome.
Hey, Michael. Thank you.
Tiffany, South Carolina.
Welcome, Tiffany.
Dale from Cleveland.
Hey there, Dale.
Hello.
Anybody else would like to introduce themselves?
Sonia from Houston.
Hey, Sonia.
Amy from Iowa.
And Miss Intisar, welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
Audio now unmuted.
All right, somebody unmuted. Want to say hello?
Hal in Canada. Did you all hear me before? Because I think I was muted.
Oh, okay. Now we hear you, Hal. Welcome.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, very good. So again, welcome everybody. I'm Jumbo. We are going to again put everybody back on mute, and just so we won't have background interruptions while I'm speaking. I'll take a break after maybe half an hour, 20 minutes to 30 minutes, somewhere in there, to give a chance for some questions along the way. All right, I got muted. Yeah, it might go a little bit longer, so hopefully you can stick around because I want to be able to have plenty of time for questions and whatnot. So let's see. Oh shoot, I forgot before we muted everybody. Should have done this. Julia, can you unmute everybody one more time? I had a question for everybody.
Okay, got it.
And it was meant to be a part of the icebreaker, but anyway, it won't be all the way around the room. But just wanted curious, has anybody here been on a safari before?
Me, obviously. David.
Hey, Dave. All right. Anybody else? Okay. I'm just curious to see if anybody else has had an opportunity to take a safari, and hopefully, whatever I might talk about today will get you thinking about it and possibly do that sometime in the future. All right. So let's put them back on mute again, Julie. All right. So for the safari that I'm going to be talking about today, it was a pretty adventurous 6 days. Actually, 5 days. That 6th day, we spent most of the day driving back. We did see a little bit of wildlife on the way back, but not as much as on the other days. So we had a total of 10 people on the safari. There were 6 people that had actually stayed over from the hike, the climb, Mount Kilimanjaro Climb, and then 3 others. Wait, that doesn't add up. Oh, I forgot Lars, our group leader. So there were 3 others that had come to join us. One of the guys' wives, a co-worker of Lars, and then my girlfriend Lisi also came in to join us. Actually, if you remember from the presentation last time, she was there on that last day once I got down from the mountain to meet me there. So she got there a couple of days early. So with that, that was our group. And for the most part, we all stayed together the whole time until we returned. We got a chance to visit some of the best safari parks in Tanzania and maybe all of Africa also. Some of them are considered, and one is actually considered the best safari park in the whole world. Those being the Tarangire National Park, Serengeti National Park, Olduvai Gorge. That's not really we visited there, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, but that's not really for safari, although we did see a few animals around there. And then finally, the Ngorongoro Crater. So those are the three main areas that we spent doing safari. And like the Kilimanjaro Climb, the safari was arranged and led by the professional company called Nana Safari. And I highly recommend them. They're just excellent service the whole way. I mean, just we were not in want for anything the whole time. So, and I'm sure there are plenty of other good safari companies throughout East Africa. As far as the costs, so it's kind of dependent on the number of people. A Jeep will hold, the safari Jeeps that we were using would hold, let's see, 8 people total. And the price would be based on the number of people. Of course, the lower the number of people, the higher the cost. If we could get up to 10 people, then the price, that was the kind of the maximum number of people we were trying to take, actually 5 on each Jeep, to give us plenty of room to carry, all our baggage, luggage, our lunches, etc. And so that gave us a total of 10 people plus the driver, 6 people counting the drivers on each vehicle. It was a private safari Jeep, and they were actually Toyotas, 4x4s, and the guides had been doing this for a long time. One of them was actually the director head of the Nana Safari. He was one of the drivers and guides. And if you remember, also he was on the Kilimanjaro Climb, Mr. Idrissa. And that cost of was $3,200, and also each person chipped in $120 toward tips. And so all that was pulled together, and tips for all the staff along the way at the different places we would go, service the staff that provided service to us at the different campsites where we stayed, the hotel the day before and the day after, tips for the guides, the driver guides, etc. So that covered all the tips. And then the cost included, of course, the safari Jeeps, all the park fees and entry fees to the national parks. And if you ever go and look up the amount of those park entrance fees, just incredible how much those are. They make some pretty good money on the safaris. Once you're in a park, you've got basically have 24 hours from you check in at a certain time, and then you have to be checked out by that same time the next 24 hours later. And so, but while you're in there, you basically had unlimited time. You could drive around as much as you want, go as far as you wanted. I mean, if you wanted to try to drive over not all night, you could probably do that too. As far as our stays overnight, that's also included in the price that I mentioned. The camping that we did, some people call it glamping. If anybody's ever went on to some of these glamping sites, they're basically like 4-star luxury campsites. And most of them were actually inside the national parks themselves. And I'll talk more about the camping setup and the amenities of the campsites and the tents and etc. It also included all our meals starting on day one with breakfast all the way through day 6, the lunch on day 6. We had plenty of water. I mean, it kind of gets pretty warm out there, and having plenty of good, cold, drinkable water. And also that was part of the reason we didn't fill the Jeep with people, is to have room to carry the extra water bottles. And then it also included like I said, the hotel stays, the final night back in that same place that we had stayed for the Kilimanjaro Climb in Moshi, the Killer Wonders Hotel. So let's just jump right into the safari itself. So, the Mount Kilimanjaro climb ended on October 9th. And then we had a whole day, October 10th, to basically do nothing. As you recall, it was just a rest, relaxation, recuperation day. And so then the safari actually got kicked off on October 11th. So that's our day one. Each day we would have breakfast somewhere around 7:30. I think there was one day we got up really early because we wanted to get out to the area at sunrise, and so we had breakfast extra early that morning and drove to where we were going to have be out at the location at sunrise. And I'll talk more about that when I get there. So we left the hotel. I've had a real casual, leisurely breakfast, and left the hotel around 9 o'clock in the morning, and drove over to a town called Arusha. So Arusha is one of the bigger cities in Tanzania. It's about a population of about 4 million people. It's a pretty interesting city. I mean, it's, very busy with different business people. And also there's, lots of markets where you see trading of everything from fresh fruits and vegetables to live animals. It's a fairly hectic pace. You'll see, everything from people going to their offices, business people going to their offices, and all the way to, there are people, as we've mentioned before, because of it being there in Africa, there are people down, way below the poverty level living there in that city. So you'll see the full realm. And so it's pretty typical of any city in Tanzania and probably Africa, any large city. Of course, you would also see, women walking around in brightly colored clothes and balancing baskets on their heads and carrying, everything, bananas, avocados, other vegetables and fruits, and other items, and headed off, down to the market to be sold. It took us about half hour, 45 minutes to drive through the city. I guess the reason we went to Moshi, that's where the Jeeps were located. So we had taken a shuttle bus from our hotel over to Moshi to transfer over to the Jeeps and to meet up with the guides at that point. And so as we drove out of the city, we started seeing some coffee plantations. The landscape started becoming very beautiful out in the wild, and the savannas, and the plains. And that's also where you would see the iconic Maasai tribes people. You'd see them herding their cattle out in the fields there in the savanna fields. After driving about 2 hours, we arrived at the entrance or one of the entrance to the Tarangire National Park. And that was about, I think it was about 1 o'clock or so, 1 p.m. in the afternoon at the time we arrived there. So we registered, you get checked in, you get your, park pass. And basically we had 24 hours from that point until we had to leave the park. And you could either come back to the gate you went in, or if there's another gate, at another location heading out, then you can check out at that point. And it was very important that we made it back to the to that gate or to the next gate by that time point, by the 1 o'clock time, because then you get charged for another extra day if you didn't. And I tell you, our guides, Drisa especially, he knew exactly where it was at any particular time, knew exactly how much time it took to get back to a place. And I mean, generally we got back like 5 minutes before the time, the time slot ended. And so that was pretty awesome to be able to spend all that time, and we didn't waste any of that time that we had. Once we got inside the park, we found a little area. I guess it's basically set up for tourists. It had like picnic tables and restrooms, and so we found a group of tables that we could sit at and had our lunch. And so each day we had a packed lunch. It was actually in little tin containers, these round tin containers. There were probably half a dozen different containers for each Jeep, each group of people, 6 people to eat out of. And these would be packed the night before or early the morning of at the previous location that we stayed. So, this first day, the lunches were packed by the hotel that we had just left that morning. And so we had all kinds of fresh vegetables and meats, just all different kinds of foods. At this particular location, we had to be careful because there was a bunch of these, I don't know what kind of they were, but a bunch of little monkeys running around everywhere. And they love to sneak up on you and steal your food. So we had to guard our food that day. We had to be really careful about the lunches and leaving any plates open or the containers open so that the monkeys didn't swipe our food. As when we finished lunch and started headed out from there, we began seeing these giant baobab trees. And some of you may have heard of these or have seen these if you previously had sight. Sometimes they're referred to as the tree of life. It's almost like a tree upside down with roots, coming up out of the bottom, has a big kind of fat bottle-like trunk. And so there were, in this particular area, just everywhere you looked, they were all around the roadway. And I use roadway kind of loosely. There were some paved roads. They had actually the Chinese government had contracted with Tanzania government to build highways. And so these were nice paved highways like anywhere you would see, anywhere in the West or throughout Europe. And because the Chinese wanted to set up some locations and hotels and tourist places of their own that catered just to the Chinese. And so they built these highways, roadways to support that. And so, at the same time, it allowed the Tanzania government to utilize these for the tourists, for their own tourist industry. So at times we would be driving on this nice paved highway, but most of the time when you're out in the national park, you're driving on just really rocky kind of roads, gravelly roads, bumpy, very bumpy at times. I mean, if you could go 25, 30 miles an hour, that would be about the top speeds we would get at times as we drove through. But you wanted to drive, slowly anyway to be able on the lookout for wildlife and other animals and things, birds and whatnot. That riding on those roads was often called the African massage. So we got lots of African massages for our butts and backs throughout the 4 or 5 days there. On this first day, we had a pretty good safari, and whenever we say have a good safari, that means we've had some pretty good sightings along the way. There were numerous experiences and sightings of zebras, and I'm going to go through, as I talk about some of these animals, I'm just assuming, well, I'm not going to assume, I'm going to actually describe them, but for people that maybe have never seen the animals, I'll try to give a little bit of a description about them as we go along. So zebras run in groups called herds, or sometimes some people refer to that group as a dazzle of zebras. And so we'd see numerous of these all along the way. Adults grow to 4 to 5 feet high in height, and this is at the shoulder whenever I mention height. Weight is anywhere from 500 to 1,000 pounds. Generally, the males are way more than the females. Here's a good little trivia. Are zebras black with white stripes, or are they white with black stripes? So the answer is they are actually black with white stripes. And if you were to look at one closely, their skin is actually black. And then the hairs become pigmented, some black and some white. And so it gets its typical stripe kind of look. One thing unique is no two zebra, or the stripes are on two zebra, no two zebras are the same. They're as unique as fingerprints on a human. They have a horse-like body, and the sound they make, they don't make a neighing sound like a horse, but they make a kind of a barking sound, almost something like a bark between a dog and maybe a donkey braying. And so you'll hear that. And first time I heard it, I was thinking, oh, there's dogs out there, but no, it was a zebra. Some other fun facts. One thing, the stripes are actually a way for them, protection mechanism. So it helps confuse lions and other predator, especially when they're in a group and they're running along. And that's where that dazzle comes from that I mentioned earlier. All those stripes, bouncing along and kind of a swirling kind of look that just really confuses the heck out of predators. And so it provides a protection mechanism for them. Zebras also have excellent memories, and they say they can recognize individuals by their voice and even patterns that they may be wearing. So that's kind of some fun facts about zebras. The other thing, many times we would see them with with a herd of zebras were the wildebeest. If anybody has ever heard of wildebeest, sometimes they're called gnu, G-N-U. Is another name that they're called sometimes. They also travel in herds. A group of wildebeest travel in herds. They're about the same height as zebras, 4 to 5 feet in height, but they weigh a lot less than zebras. They're only 250 to 600 pounds, so it's roughly half of what we mentioned a while ago for the zebras. They have a kind of a cow or bull-like head. If you were to see them and try to figure out what they are, but that's what I was told, that they have kind of a bull-like head, and they actually have like a little beard on their chin, black little beard. They have horns similar to a bull. They're more curved out, almost like a crescent moon, but they're not sharp. They're just real blunt kind of horns. Their bodies are very muscular looking. Then they become thin out towards their hindquarters, and their hindquarters actually are more horse-like in appearance. Their tail looks very much like a horse's tail, and then they also have legs and hooves, much like a horse. So kind of a mix of several different animals there. Fun facts about wildebeest. When they travel with the zebras, as I mentioned, and so the zebras eat the taller grass, and the wildebeest eat the shorter grass. I think their heads are lower to the ground than the zebras, and so it's just kind of a natural makeup there. The wildebeest, there are in the Tarangire National Park approximately 1.5 million wildebeest, and so each year they do a great migration. They call it from the national park there, or through the national park. There's some actually in other national parks throughout Tanzania, but they go through Tarangire National Park and then on up north to Kenya each year. That usually occurs, I think, late January, February timeframe. So if you ever want to go see the great migration of wildebeest, you'd want to go in that time period. The other fun fact about wildebeest, they have kind of, I don't know if you call them birthing events, but when they give birth, there's actually hundreds of thousands of calves that are born within like a 2 to 3 week period. So somehow they all get, pregnant at the same time and have their calves in that same time period. So pretty interesting. We also saw lots of giraffes in the Tarangire National Park. And if anybody knows what not a herd, but a group of giraffes are called, well, they have two different nomenclature. If the giraffes are standing still, then they're called a tower of giraffes. Kind of obvious nomenclature. And if they're moving, if they're walking along, running along, then they're called a journey of giraffe. Typical heights, they get up 14 to 18 feet. And a lot of that, 6 to 8 feet, is, of course, their long necks. They weigh anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 pounds. And like all the other animals that I mentioned, the males typically weigh, about double what the females will weigh, up to double. They also have kind of a horse-like body, and then, of course, the very stretched out neck. And they have these long, straight, thin legs. They have very large, expressive eyes with long eyelashes. And those long eyelashes help protect their eyes from any thorny branches they may be trying to eat leaves from. They have two horn-like structures. These are called ossicones. Somebody can correct me later. Usually, they're very quiet. They don't really make any sounds. You may hear them make a kind of a grunt or a snort occasionally. Fun facts about giraffe. They have the same number of neck vertebrae as humans. So we humans have 7 neck vertebrae, and so do giraffes. But of course, theirs are much elongated to give you that 6 to 8 foot neck versus, I don't know how long a regular human neck is, several inches. Their color, they have irregular, or at least the ones in Tanzania, the species in Tanzania of giraffe have irregular kind of a leaf-shaped patterns, almost like torn pieces of a puzzle. Then we saw a number of elephants that first day also. And of course, elephants are the largest land animals on Earth, weighing in at 3 to 7 tons, standing up to 10 to 12 feet in height. A group of elephants, anybody know, is called a herd. Of course, the elephants have massive barrel-shaped bodies. Their legs are often pillar-like description or tree trunk-like legs. They also have enormous heads with large ears. And the ones in Tanzania, and I think most of Africa actually, the African elephants, their ears are actually shaped like the continent of Africa, if you were to lay it out flat. And of course, the thing that really stands out about the elephants is their iconic trunk. That's the long, muscular, flexible extension of their lips and nose. And they use that trunk for breathing, smelling, drinking, grabbing hold of things, touching, and they'll actually comfort other elephants using their trunks. Also, they'll pick up dust with the trunk or mud and throw that over their backs to provide like a sunscreen when they're out in the hot sun. Both the males and females have long curved ivory tusks, and the tusks are used for digging, stripping bark from trees, for protecting, and also for protecting themselves against predators, and they'll also move objects around with their tusks. They also have big, round, padded feet. These pads, I forget how many, they're really thick pads, and that helps them be able to walk around pretty silently, quietly through, grass and not be detected despite their huge size. They will make, you can hear them making deep rumble. Well, some of the rumbles are so low, such a low tone that humans can't even detect that. But probably most people have heard them make the trumpeting type sounds that they're known for. They're highly intelligent and emotional. They tend to be matriarchal family groups, and the oldest female is the leader of that. They can eat up to 300 to 400 pounds of vegetation daily. In the Tarangire National Park, the Tanzanian elephant has one of the highest, Tanzania has one of the highest elephant concentrations in the whole world. And if an elephant dies, their family members actually mourn. And you can see them, going over, touching the dead body, and they may even come back years later and where the bones are resting to revisit, because they do also have great memories. And with those great memories, that allows them also to remember, water holes. Sometimes years later, they'll remember a water hole, where a water location of water holes are. Let's see. We also saw some cheetah. Cheetahs run around in groups called a coalition. Well, the males anyway, they're called a coalition. The female groups are just referred to as a family group. They grow in height 2.5 to 3 feet at the shoulder. They have a fairly long body, about 4 to 5 feet, and they weigh about 70 to 140 pounds. And they're very slim, sleek, lightweight, and they're able to, they're very flexible, and some people have referred to them that they're built like a long distance runner. And they have a small head compared to the rest of the body. And then they have these distinctive black tear stripes that run from their inner eye down to their down towards their mouth. And it's thought that these if you ever watch sports, baseball, football, you'll see people put black under their eyes, and that's to reduce sun glare. And so that's what that black marking below their eyes is thought to help provide for blocking sun glare to allow them to hunt more proficiently during the day, especially when they're moving at high speeds. They're kind of a golden yellowish in color, with small round black spots that are fairly equally spaced around their body. Being long and muscular, and then they have their tail rather is long and muscular, and it acts like kind of like a rudder. So when they're moving at high speeds, they can angle that tail a certain way, and allows them to quickly change direction when they're chasing prey. So unlike lions or leopards, the cheetahs do not roar, don't make a roaring sound. They will typically just chirp or purr or want kind of a whining sound, and sometimes even kind of a bird-like call. And so they'll use these, especially the mothers, to call their young cubs. Other fun facts about the cheetahs. Tanzania has probably one of the highest, best cheetah populations in Africa because of the large open plains areas, the savannas. It's just perfect for them to get out and run at their high speeds and to chase and make their kills. Unlike lions and hyenas and leopards, though, once they've made a kill, they're not very powerful. And so they end up often losing their kills to other animals that will come along, etc. Lions, hyenas, and leopards, for example. And so that's like kind of unfortunate. They do all that work and then they don't get to be victors of their spoils. Then we have what's called we found some, it's called a dik-dik, D-I-K. Now I hear some of you guys snickering. But anyway, a dik-dik. So they run in, if they happen to be in a group, it's called a herd, but typically they don't move together in groups. They live in, you'll typically just see a male and female together, and they're paired up for a lifetime, unlike most other animals. They're basically a tiny antelope. And they're one of the smallest animals in Africa, or antelopes in Africa. They only grow to 12 to 16 inches in height and weigh about 6 to 13 pounds. So, if you think of your average house cat, it's about the size of a dik-dik. Their bodies are very slender and delicate, and they have very thin legs. They do have kind of a long nose, not anywhere like an elephant, but and it kind of does look like a tiny trunk on a dik-dik. They have very large, dark eyes and surrounded by white, kind of a white marking around those dark eyes. The males have short, straight horns, and the females have no horns. They are extremely shy, and you'll see them jumping at just the slightest little sound. They'll be hopping off, taking off, and so that's their protection mechanism. Fun fact about the dik-dik. Their nose, that long nose that I mentioned, it actually acts like a mini air conditioner, because as they're breathing, it allows them to cool their blood and cool down their body temperatures during those hot summer days or hot days in Africa. And as I mentioned, that they get away and they're very fast, relatively fast. They get 25 to 30 miles an hour. I know I am running short on time here. We also saw a few lions, not as many as at other national parks. The ones we saw were the females, a few females in groups sitting under trees with their cubs. They, in the late afternoon, then we arrived overnight at our lodging place, and it was one of these tented campsites that I mentioned to you. It was inside the national park there, And we were at each of these places. We were greeted by the staff there. They would come out, have a wet towel for you to, wipe off all the dust and sweat that had accumulated on your hands and face during the day, and offered you a fresh fruit drink as you got there. Glamping, the tents were very spacious. They had solid floors, usually, or at least the first night had a separate living room area from the bedroom and the bathroom, large bathrooms that had double sinks. There were connections for power and internet hookups, and so it was almost like a modern hotel room. The hot water was solar heated. It was solar heated. At this first one, they turned the hot water on and off as needed, so didn't waste anything there on the heat. Had just each night we would have just a really wonderful meal, buffets. The dinners would have just everything from soups and salads to fresh vegetables, all different kinds of meats. So it's just a really great meal. There was nothing really strange about any of the meals, like we mentioned, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. I mean, there may have been some vegetables that were slightly different, but for the most part, it was all very recognizable kinds of foods. Being there was more comfortable than being out in a classic tent, but still it was, being in a tent, even though it was glamorous and very spacious, you were right there outdoors, right next to nature. You could hear all the sounds of the animals that happened to be out at night around you. That first night, I think I did hear a few lions in the distance roaring, and some of the antelopes walking around outside. I think I'm going to pause here. I know I barely got through day one, and take a few questions. So if we can unmute everybody, Julie.
Yep.
Okay. Just say your name and wait to be acknowledged, and let you jump in here.
Hey, Michael, it's David.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
I know the type of monkey, and we're going to get some laughs from it. But before I do that, the one thing I would add is the Toyota Jeeps were kind of cool because they had this modified pop-up truck top, so you could stand up inside the Jeep, which was kind of cool, right?
Yeah. I forgot to mention that. Thanks.
The windows, they would let us open the windows, and at least the side window where I was sitting slid sideways, and it went from almost your thigh when you were sitting down to the roof. So we had clear places where we could actually stand up or sit down and hear the animals, because we got within 10 yards of most of the big animals, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that you did a great job explaining all the animals. Excellent job. And the other thing is, at the beginning of the Tarangire Park, it was kind of cool because while they were signing us in, we got to go feel a bunch of these bones from giraffes and elephants that they had lying at the entrance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. And so finally, the monkeys at the lunch place, you remember they were named for their anatomy?
Oh,
the blue balls monkeys.
Yeah, that was the blue balls. Okay. Yeah.
Bright blue testicles, apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks, David. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Great job.
Yeah, that was
Heather?
one thing. To be able to see, good and hear everything clearly, like David just said. The Jeeps, you had big windows beside you that slid open, plus the pop-up roof where you could stand up and, depending on how tall you were, of course, I could stand and my shoulders would be at the bottom of the area. And then so I had my whole, I could basically lean my elbows out over the edge of the top of the roof of the vehicle. And then the pop-up gave me plenty of headroom to stand up and observe and hear. Okay, Heather, go ahead.
Just a question. You really have a very good description of all the animals you saw. Did you actually were they giving a good description on good commentary on the ride so people who couldn't see would be able to see or understand what the animals looked like?
Yeah, for the most part, depending on who the guide was, many hours, we actually had two guides. We had Lars, who's done many tours, and then Idrissa, the driver. The drivers, though, spend most of the time just looking out, trying to find a spot, make sightings. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't probably as detailed as I just gave. I mean, I found, I got more description to add in here from ChatGPT and all the fun facts and things like that, just so that people that didn't have, have ever seen any of these animals, then kind of give you a little more visual of what they actually look like.
Oh, great. Thank you.
All right. You bet. Any other questions or comments?
Randy.
Yeah, go ahead, Randy.
Hey, Mike, I have a financial question. Part one, you said with the plane ride and everything and the climb, it was like $6,000 or so. And then on this part, you said it was about $3,000. Was that part of the original 6,000, or did you add that, making your trip about $10,000?
Yeah, it's a second.
Okay.
Yeah, the 3,200 was in addition to the original climb and the airfare.
Sounds like it was worth it, though.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, it wasn't the cheapest safari or actually the cheapest climb that you can find, but you basically get what you pay for. I think there are other cheaper versions where you may not get as good a lunch or staying, the accommodations aren't as nice as we stayed in each night. So it just depends on how much you want to spend and do.
This is Janice.
Janice, go ahead.
This is a basic question. Here in the U.S., we normally say Tanzania, but I hear you saying Tanzania. Is that how they pronounce it over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just pronouncing it like they do.
No, yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Val?
Val, go ahead.
Okay, so Elizabeth asked the question that I was going to ask. I'm curious about pictures. Were you able to take pictures yourselves, or did they have somebody take them for you and you can get them afterwards, or what was that situation?
Yeah, there were sighted people on both vehicles in addition to the guides. So they were taking pictures. Our main group leader, Lars, he had a very nice camera and he took a lot of great photos. And so we have access to all those. He would give me, the direction, basically the direction and, how far away and if there was any height differences from the level of the top of the vehicle. And I would just point and shoot my iPhone out at whatever he described. And I have not yet had somebody look at all my pictures to see if any of them came out or not, but hopefully some did. I mean, as I go along, most of the sightings we had on this first day, they were probably the closest we got. Occasionally, we would be on a road and the animals would walk right in front of the vehicle, and I mean, we had to literally stop to not hit them, and then they'd be walking within a few meters of the vehicle.
Cool.
Other days, we actually had, a lion that you could have reached down and touched it if you were brave enough to do that. But everybody shut their windows when they saw the lion coming.
I'm sure. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, one thing people ask, why don't the animals get spooked when they hear the Jeeps, all these, tourist Jeeps come through there? And, at this point that they're so used to all these vehicles going through that they don't even think anything about it. And they just, they know they're not going to be harmed. And so they just will walk around and come, right up to vehicles and have no issues.
It's Pete.
Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
Any stories with this safari company or others of animal attacks on humans? I hear about those. We see them in the paper about national parks and people, getting out of the vehicles or doing stupid stuff when they're rolling through the national parks in the U.S. I'm wondering if they've got any similar horror stories over there.
This particular company did not. I mean, somebody did
Did they
ask them.
impose restrictions on you?
Did they?
Or just
Oh, yeah. I mean, you were not allowed to. Occasionally, we'd be going along. Somebody needed to use the bathroom.
yeah.
So we would have to drive to an area where they knew that there weren't going to be any animals around, or
Right.
any of the attacking type animal, predator type animals around.
Sure. Yeah.
And so then they could go out in the back of the vehicle safely
Right.
at that point.
Good. Okay.
So, Michael, this is Lois.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did the animals travel in herds? Were they usually a pack of animals together, or how was that?
Yeah, I mean, at times you would see, 20, 30. Then at other times you could see hundreds, even thousands. There were, not at this particular park, but there were some others where we actually, I mean, zebras, just everywhere that you look, they said there were just zebras all around, just solid, black and white stripes.
What
So,
about at night when you were in your tents? Were you ever concerned that there might be some animals around?
no, I haven't got to that part yet, but yeah, this first night, I did hear one lion, and I could hear something walking outside the tent. I'm guessing it was like an antelope or some other kind of animal like that. It seemed kind of a lightweight animal. Later on, I'll mention a night when an elephant actually brushed up against my tent, or at least I think it was an elephant. It seemed pretty big. But yeah, they're out there. Oh, the other thing, the Maasai people that I mentioned to you, they're, even though they're cattle herdsmen, they're very strong, very warrior-like at times. I mean, they have that reputation I don't think they do it anymore, but back in the day when they were fighting other tribes. So most of these companies or most of these campsites hire the Maasai people as guards. And so they would pretty much, be out all night long, all around the camp, and scare off any animals if they got, any predator type animals if they got too close.
Okay, thank you.
And you couldn't walk between your tent and, like, to go to dinner in the evening. You had to call in and have an escort, one of the Maasai people, to come over and escort you over to the dinner tent and back at night. So you never walked alone.
Right.
They usually carried some kind of big knife, or I don't think they had any gun type weapons, but they had spears and knives with them.
Thank you.
All right. I think we're probably going to move on. And it's going to go a lot quicker now, because I'm not going to, since a lot of these animals, we're going to repeat and see the same thing over and over again. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time giving you detailed description of animals from this point on. So, Julie, if we can mute everybody again. All right, now we're going to move on to day 2, October 12th. All right, this morning we continued on through Tarangire Park, National Park, since we had until 1 p.m. before we needed to check out at the gate. So we spent all morning after we, finished our breakfast there, just going around other parts of the park that we had not been able to explore previously. August through October is considered the dry season. And during the dry season, a lot of the water holes the animals use are dried up. And so it ends up, a lot of the animals end up moving over closer to the Tarangire River. And so that's kind of the area that we were looking for. And of course, predator animals know that too. And so you'll see more of them over there waiting on their prey to come up and get a drink out of the river. We saw, again, many of the same animals that we had saw on day one. We did experience an actual cheetah kill. So that was kind of unique to be able to actually see a kill. So this female cheetah, they said they could see it, perched low in the grass, slowly going up to this antelope. And then, once it got close enough where it knew that it could catch the cheetah, and as soon as it sprang out, of course, the antelope takes off, and I don't remember how far, maybe 50 meters before the cheetah caught up with it and struck it down. And afterwards, the female called out to its cubs using kind of a chirping noise to get the cubs to come over to her, to where the kill was laid out there on the ground. Once we finished up there our morning in Tarangire National Park, we started heading out, and we found another one of those spots where tourists can congregate with picnic tables and restrooms, etc., and had our lunch. And here there weren't monkeys at this particular site, but there were some birds that like to have your lunch. And so you would be just kind of waiting for these swooping birds to come down and try to grab your lunch. It's kind of funny to be eating and you're kind of hovering over your plate and you have your hands up trying to protect it as you're eating at the same time and keep the animals away. I mean, they're not going to attack you, but they do like to get your food. After we finished our lunch in the afternoon, we continued on to the next lodge that towards the next lodge that we were going to stay at. And that was about a 2-hour drive from the Tarangire National Park gate. And it was just outside of the Ngorongoro conservation area where the big crater is. And we would be coming back to the crater later, but this particular place where we were going to stay that evening, we ended up driving around the rim of the crater and had some really spectacular views down into the crater itself. And there was a lake. What's the name of the lake? Lake Manyara. Lake Manyara. Yada. If I can get that out. Manyara. Manyara. And then something called the Rift Valley. And we probably spent about an hour driving around that ridge, and being able to check that out. And then it was time to head on over to the Ngorongoro farmhouse. and that was the place that we were going to stay overnight. And this was the only place that was not inside a national park, and it was not one of those camping places. It was actually an old coffee farmhouse. It was on a coffee plantation. It had been converted into a lodge, and had built on some. Can't remember. There's about 45 or 50 rooms that were there on that property you could stay at. And because it's not in a national park, didn't have to worry about, there were no wild animals around, and so you're pretty much free to walk around the property, go do whatever you want to on your own. And we had plenty of time. We got there, late afternoon. There was still a couple hours of daylight left, so we had time to enjoy the views there. It was really a beautiful place. Even though there was not experienced the outdoor wild nature kind of thing, these really fantastically beautiful surroundings. Had really great views of the highlands, the Ngorongoro highlands. There from the main house, which had the restaurant and the bar, or from even your own little terrace attached to your rooms. That farmhouse was located just before you would drive into the protected area that housed the Ngorongoro Crater, and then that would take us on to the Serengeti National Park, which is going to be our next stop. Some other things about the farmhouse there. It is still a working coffee producing plantation, and if you wanted to stay there, it'd be a nice place just to stay and hang out, and you can do tours of they'll do tours, show you how coffee's from the time it's grown and picked and produced, and sit down and have a cup of coffee there out on the patio. Oh, they also have their own bakery there, and their own hen house and cows and other animals, sheep. And so they're pretty much self-sufficient, grow their own vegetables there. So everything that we would eat was pretty freshly grown at this place. They also had a little swimming pool if anybody wanted to go swimming. They had this kind of a tropical garden area, and within it, there was a little swimming pool just right there nearby. And again, the dinner was just this real kind of extravagant buffet. This one actually had a little grill cookout kind of thing. They were making steaks and fish fries or kind of barbecue type fish, grilled fish rather. The next morning, when we got up, after we had an early breakfast, we drove on to the Serengeti National Park, and that was, I can't remember, I think several hours before we got there. We did make a quick stopover. Since we were near the entrance to the Ngorongoro conservation area, we stopped there because it was just a really good, and again, another good viewing area. out over the crater. As we were driving out, we would pass small colonies of the Maasai tribe. They actually lived in these round huts, so we saw lots of these round huts along the way. And then the Maasai typically dress in real brightly colored reds and purples clothing, and they'd be out there in their fields again, taking care of their cattle. Yeah, a person is, especially a Maasai, they're judged how rich they are by the number of cattle they own. So that was, always a very key thing that they needed to guard their cattle, make sure, against both animals and other people that would come by, try to steal the cattle. But, they lived there, out there with the wild animals. And, to this day, they pretty much live in harmony with nature, as they have for hundreds of years. They still live just very humbly, don't have any, modern conveniences, no running water, no toilets, nothing like that. So we did drive on through the Rift Valley, and again, just having great views. Then we passed the Olduvai Gorge, which we'll come back to in a couple of days to actually visit, or the next day maybe. No, 2 days from now. And that's the place some of you may have heard. It's believed where the first people on Earth lived and came from. Around noon, we arrived at the Nabi Gate of the entrance to the Serengeti National Park. And once we got inside the park, we found another little area where we could set up and have our lunch. And again, as I mentioned, each place that we would visit each night, that next morning or the night before, they would pack our lunches for us. And so we'd have, fresh meals to eat each day. I think there was one day where was it? Oh, no, yeah, it was here. Okay, so when we left the farmhouse, there we actually made our own lunches. We made sandwiches and had other vegetables and things that we would pack up. And so we actually made little sack lunches that we carried when we left the farmhouse. So that's what we had this day. And, we'd be just, again, sitting out there enjoying the nature. Occasionally we'd see some animals walking around close proximity to us. We were just kind of out in the middle of the savannah there on the Serengeti. After lunch, we moved towards the center part of the Serengeti Park. And here they told us to, anytime we would approach any animals, to, really be quiet, just keep our voices down. We didn't want to spook any animals if they happened to be nearby. Serengeti is probably one of the most well-known national parks in the world. If you ever see any movies, TV shows, documentaries of Africa, wild animals in Africa, most likely it was filmed in the Serengeti. It's a huge place. It covers about 1,500 square miles. It's also on the UNESCO World Heritage. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's one of the most unique listings on the UNESCO site. The Serengeti, the ecosystem of the Serengeti is home to the largest number of wild animals in the whole world. And so we had mentioned the wildebeest that we saw previously. So there's about 1.4, almost 1.5 million wildebeest in the Serengeti, 250,000 zebras, 10,000 giraffes, 3,000 lions, and 1,000 leopards, and over 500 species of birds can be found in the Serengeti. And we saw some of each one of those, I think, pretty much, yeah. You go into the Serengeti, I mean, you're almost guaranteed to have an experience at least 4 out of the 5, or 4 out of the big 5 animals. The big 5, well, the 4 that most likely we'll see are leopards, elephants, lions, and buffalo. And then the last one, the rhinos, there's very few left in the Serengeti, so it's kind of hit and miss if you get to see a rhino. We would drive along the various little rivers throughout the Serengeti. We were trying to explore those in hopes of seeing some crocodile, which we did see, and some hippopotamus, which we did see. More on the second morning. We would be driving along tree lines because there you would often find lions and leopards in shade. So that, well, the leopards would be up in the trees. The lions would be down on the ground in the shade of the tree. We what did we do there? Oh, we would take, anytime we wanted to take a break, we would try to find, in the Serengeti, there's a number of places where they have these large rock formations just jutting out of the ground called kopjes or kopjes, Kopjes. And these huge rock formations provided an area where, both the leopards and lions could rest in the shade of the rock formations, and also their prey would also come nearby there to get out of the sun, and so. There's an area that's right adjacent to the Serengeti called the Masai Maru. And this is the area where I think I mentioned the wildebeest, when they do their great migration, this is where it starts. And so if you go in January, February timeframe, then this is probably from here, and then also back there in the Tarangire National Park, be able to see the wildebeest, the great migration of the wildebeest. We spent the night at a place called the Serengeti Mbalakai Tented Camp. and it was pretty much in the middle of the savannah there, animals all around. The service there was just really excellent, very personal. This was a smaller site. It only had 12 tents, and so it was very intimate. There were herds of wildebeest and other peaceful animals, antelopes, impala, that were around this particular area. The lions, leopards, they tended to stay further away, although you could hear them roaring in the night. But the other animals you actually heard walking around outside your tent. It was just for me, just a really amazing experience just to be, spending the night there, although it was kind of a luxury tent, but still very close, just right out there in nature, knowing that wild animals were all around us, and just getting a really authentic safari type, authentic safari type atmosphere. And, just lying there in my bed and hearing the, lions roaring in the distance and during the night, and also could hear some hyenas. I think there were hyenas. I would get chills just thinking about that, and those sounds would basically just settle deep within me and deep within my soul, and knowing that I was just so close to the real thing in the real place. At all our camps, as I mentioned, we felt pretty safe. We didn't ever feel in danger from animals. Again, with the Maasai guards that they had hired, so never felt unsafe at any time when we were in the camps and in our tents. Day 4. Here we after we got up fairly early and went out, and since we had the rest of the morning to go around the Serengeti and we were looking for the rhino, but we ended up going to one place along the river there, and there were just hippos. Just hundreds of hippos out in the river, they said. It was like, you could just probably walk for, hundreds of meters and on top of the hippos' backs if you were to dare to do that. But they're, just lined up, side by side, back to back, all along the river. Just a sea of hippos, or a river of hippos. One thing they say, hippos are the most humans are, most human deaths by wild animals are from the hippos. During the dry season, not only the animals need water, but the people that live out there need water, and so they also have to go down to the river. And the hippos know that too. And if the people get too close to the river's edge or down into the river, then it makes it pretty easy for a hippo to easily snap up a human. And crocodiles are right there too. As we drove along the tree lines, the guides were looking for up in the trees, like I said, the leopards. That's where they would be hanging out. We found a couple, I think, up in the trees there. And hopefully they got some good pictures. Didn't ever hear during the day, rarely hear the animals making any noises other than the ones that are walking along. You can hear them in the grass or well, the zebras and the wildebeest definitely could hear them. The lion, we saw several groups of lions, females with their cubs. So the females would usually be in groups of 2 or 3, and with their cubs. The males would be out, as I mentioned, they'd be out in groups they called coalition, and a lot of times those were brothers, and they just kind of hung out, went hunting together. Then, of course, they were the fathering the cubs. I asked Lars, one of our guides. He was talking about, since these coalitions run around like that, there's some coalitions that don't have a female group, and so if they spot a female group that's unattended with their males, then they'll go over and take over. So they'll take over that family, and in doing so, and the other males will at that point will just move on. They don't try to come fight them or win their family back or anything like that. That's just the way it works in those particular animals. But one tragic thing that happens are this new coalition of males that come in, they do not tolerate having cubs from another father. And so they end up killing all the cubs, and then they'll start over and father their own. So that's really unfortunate part of the cycle. Lars said he happened to experience that once, and he says just a really horrific thing. You hear the cubs, they know that that's not their fathers approaching, and they try to run away, and they're screaming, and then you hear the males catch them and, of course, kill them at that point, bite through their necks and kill them. But it's all part of the cycle of life out there. We left the Serengeti, and what is it? We continued on from the Serengeti, and that afternoon we took off. We checked out before our 24-hour time point, and then we drove on back to visit the Olduvai Gorge that we had passed previously coming over to the Serengeti. And so we got over there in time. We spent a couple of hours there and explored the area, and they have a little museum there. And so that's the area again. It's believed that the first what's it called? Got it written down here somewhere. Homo erectus. So the first monkey-like creatures that stood on their hind legs. They found evidence of them there. Some of you may have heard of Lucy. So they have the remains of Lucy nearby there were found. And so that's kind of the claim to fame for the Olduvai Gorge area in the museum there. So it was pretty interesting to check that out. After that, we drove on back. We actually went to the Ngorongoro farmhouse again. We wanted to go back there because it was situated and located very near the entrance to the Ngorongoro Crater, which we were going to go to the next morning. I mean, it was actually only like 15, 20 minutes away from the entrance to the crater. And so we went back there. Actually, one of the guys on the safari got sick when we first got to the Ngorongoro farmhouse, and ended up staying there for the 2 days that we were gone. And so we joined back up with him. Once we got there, he was feeling a lot better, and so that was all good. And so he could go out on safari to Ngorongoro Crater the next day. So on the fifth day, we went out to Ngorongoro Crater. Takes about half an hour drive to the bottom of the crater. We got up really early, had a really early breakfast so that we would get out there at sunrise, be down at the bottom of the crater at sunrise. Not only it was great for photography purposes, but also just being out there ahead of when most other tourists get there. You get to see a lot more animals up close. They tend to be a little more active first thing in the morning as they're maybe getting ready to go down to the water's edge, get water, that kind of thing. And so we were out there early. Not many people, most people that go there usually stay in places that are further away, several hours away. And so, they won't get there until later, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And so we had several hours there kind of by ourselves almost. Other people that happened to stay at the farmhouse also were out there early since it's so close. The crater itself, it's a very unique natural phenomena. It used to be a mountain, and volcanic mountain, and it was actually bigger than Kilimanjaro. And they estimate about 3 million years ago, it erupted and basically blew itself up. And so, and that created the crater itself. That explosion covered much of the Serengeti area with ash, and then formed the gigantic crater. The crater itself is roughly a little over 100 square miles down there at the bottom. So there's a lot of area to explore. Animals have, migrated into the area. They're all, animals that are from that area that have migrated. They said they brought in one white rhino. That was the only animal that has been brought in by man. But very rarely do you ever see the white rhino, or I don't know if they brought in a male and a female to allow them to mate or not, but or it may just be the one white rhino till it dies. If you only have one day to go do a safari and you can if you can travel over to that farmhouse, then this is the place to go. You'll see more wildlife in one spot, this small concentrated area, the 100 square miles of the crater, than any place else in Africa. The last day, October 16th, day 6. This was a day mainly for driving back to the city where we started, Arusha. Along the way, we did see a few animals, but basically we closed up the top. We mentioned before the pop-up top that allowed us to stand up and listen and observe animals from that position. But we were going to be shortly getting back on one of those nice highways that the Chinese had built and driving back to Arusha. We would go through a number of villages along the way heading back. There was this one village that we went through. I mean, you see all kinds of crazy things. I mean, I already mentioned, women carrying baskets of just all kinds of stuff on their heads and things like that. But there was a guy on a motorcycle, and Lars, he kind of did a double take, and he was just screaming and grabbing his camera as fast as he could. On the back of the motorcycle was a cow. And so one of the ladies, she goes, "How's a cow holding on?" I guess she was visualizing the cow sitting on its butt and had its legs wrapped around the driver or something. But no, the cow was strapped over the back, behind the driver, tied down to the seat back and like that. So, but that had to be a crazy sight to see a guy carrying a live cow on a motorcycle. I guess he had bought a cow and was taking it home for whatever reason. Anyway, we got back to Arusha, had lunch at a place called the Arusha Coffee Gardens. A really nice lunch was set up there for us. We met up with some of the other guides that had guided us on the mountain, some of the other people that work for Nana. They actually, unbeknownst to me, Lisi had set up a birthday party at our lunch. This happened to be my birthday, October 16th, that we were heading out. And so had a little birthday party there. And on this same property, adjacent to the restaurant, was a place called Shanga Recycling. They recycled products there. And the key thing about them is it was a for-profit group, but they hired people with disabilities. And so, there were people with deaf, hard of hearing, blind, people with mobility disabilities. And so for my birthday, I think I mentioned this last time, for my birthday, Lisa had got me this blanket that a deaf woman had made there. And I got to visit with her, and she, sat down beside her, and she took my hands and helped me walk me through the steps of, weaving a blanket. So that was a fun thing to do. So anyway, that was my safari. So we'll open it up again and have a few questions.
Okay, good.
All right, very good. Thanks, Julie.
This is Jody.
Jody, go ahead.
It sounds like such a wonderful experience with so many stories. So this is kind of an emotional question. I mean, you did have a sensory experience of hearing things and smelling things and, and the whole thing. But did you ever feel like, gosh, I wish I could see what's going on?
Yeah. They're always, I had sight up until about 20 years ago. And so I do remember, seeing pictures and films and TV of safaris and things like that. And, of course, seeing the animals at the zoo and things. So I still have some memories of, what some of those animals look like. But to be able to be that close and, I didn't mention, there were a group of lion that were just adjacent to the road. And anytime there's a little group like that, I mean, you'll see concentration of a bunch of Jeeps, and you just basically get in line, wait your turn to get your 3 to 5 minutes to drive up close. And, but then one of the lions got up out of the group and started walking back down the line of Jeeps. And it literally just went right beside us. And I think I mentioned before, you could just reach out your window and have touched and petted the lion as it went by. And so, there's times, slid the window open a little bit where I could, smell the scent of the land that close. But yeah, just to be able to see things like that would have been just really awesome, I think, to me. Also.
I mean, it's such a visual thing, and I think that's what, I mean, I've had times where, I've enjoyed myself, but then every once in a while I think, geez, I wish I could see what's going on. So I wondered if you felt that way too.
Yeah. And, the nights there's no light anywhere around. So the clear nights, people would describe, just the abundance of stars out.
Oh, yeah.
Things like that. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Great trip.
Janice,
Yeah, Janice.
I just wanted to comment and say, Michael, that I think it was such a courageous thing for you to do, both the climb and the safari. And just as the last person said, I just can't imagine doing it without any sight and feeling that you're missing out on so much. However, I think not the one, but one good thing that would help you out was having your girlfriend with you, because she would probably explain a lot of things to you.
Yeah, that's true. I did leave out one part though. She actually got sick after the first day. She's got asthma. She has very severe asthma, and there's lots of dust, especially during the dry season out on those roads, dusty roads. And so there's no way to keep all that dust out of the vehicle. And so that started impacting her asthma. And so the second day we had to meet up with somebody, drove in from the company, picked her up and took her back to Arusha, where she stayed until we got back. But one thing I forgot to mention, one thing we did to help us, one of the guys sent a list of questions ahead of time to Lars and the main guides that would be out there, and kind of things to think about in describing the scenery, the animals to blind people.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
well, I just think you're just so courageous to have done that. I really do.
Okay, thank you.
Rosetta Stone.
Rosetta, go ahead.
I'm just amazed, Michael. And then when you were describing the animals, the ones that I can remember ever seeing stateside, I just saw whole groups of them by my imagination when you were describing them. But then I want to ask you, did you ever hear anything about reptiles and snakes while you were there? And do the people eat the animals? I guess not in the national park, but are they bush meat?
Outside of the park, they could, I guess, but they're protected.
Okay.
In the parks, national parks themselves. As far as reptiles, because of this particular area, just does not have. You have to go into more jungle type areas.
Okay.
In the center of the Africa, further down south, to find a safari that goes more into jungle type areas.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
This is Cindy.
Cindy, yeah.
Hi, Michael. Let's see. I had two questions. I had two questions. When I thought about Africa, besides the wonderful animals, it I don't know. Could you sense like not visually? Could you sense like the huge amount of openness of the area? Not visually, and then also I had a question about, did you hear anything about the risk of health issues or injuries of the people that live there?
Let's see. Let me start with the last question first. The people that live there, I didn't hear that much about, injuries or disease or anything like that. Sure there is. I know, my girlfriend, when she actually went to the hospital to visit the hospital to get some medication and just initial checkup or initial check when she got back that first afternoon or the next day. And she did say that, because going to a medical facility there, of course, nothing like going anywhere in the West or Europe, but the cost of things is so cheap. I think, her whole hospital visit plus all the medication she got was like $25. And of course, she could pay easily with cash. And she got sick because she was paying with cash. She was like seen way ahead of anybody else that came in there that were, basically there just on the government medical system.
Wow.
So that's, but
and then the sense of the openness, like,
yeah,
I don't know how to explain it, but yeah.
If the wind was blowing good, then yeah, I could feel the wind. When I'd stand up, I'd feel the wind, and you could hear, or I could hear, like grasses blowing in certain areas where there were plenty of trees. Hear, rustling leaves, things like that. So
yeah, thank you so much.
But it was very much different from
Heather?
being in the mountains.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead, Heather.
Okay, an interesting question. How does we talk about the big five? How did what's the history behind how those animals were chosen as the big five? Like, where does that come from?
Well, they're basically,
because they're big.
Yeah, basically their size, based on their size, the animals in Africa anyway. I think that's, but the size, and also the lions and leopards may not be biggest, but because of their kill power.
Okay.
This is Ned.
Yeah, go ahead, Ned.
Yes, you talk about the parks and the animals being in the parks. Do the animals ever wander outside the parks, or how do they know to stay in their area? I'm curious.
No, they're free to go anywhere. There's no fences that I'm aware of between, the parks and the non-park areas. And
So even when you were staying at that farmhouse, they could wander around by the farmhouse.
well, that was, I think, fenced in. So maybe that would not, they wouldn't be able to get into that area or certain areas of around the farmhouse. But out in the savannas between, border of a national park. And there's some of the national parks that are, adjacent to each other, their borders anyway. And I guess just after a period of time, the animals have a set place they will cross, either natural rivers or whatever they create the border from. And so they, a lot of times you'll see the animals go to a certain place to cross over, they said. That great migration of the wildebeest going from Serengeti up to Kenya. Yeah, they're crossing country borders there.
Michael, it's Carol.
Yeah, Carol.
Yeah, what about the language? Was it difficult to follow? They have heavy accents. Are we able to understand on the tours?
Yeah, any of the staff that worked at the places where we stayed would speak a little English, some better than others. So it just depends, who you're talking to. But most of, you could speak in very simple 1-2 word phrases and usually communicate pretty easily that way.
Okay.
Also use a lot of hand gestures.
Okay. Thank
But,
you.
yeah, that's a kind of a requirement for any people that get hired there to have some English
Yeah.
skills.
Thank you.
Yep.
Val?
Go ahead, Val.
Okay, I've been wondering this since the first part of your presentations, but could you go into like what you have to do to actually enter Africa? Obviously, you would need a photo ID and a passport, but do you have to have like some type of immunizations or anything like that before you go?
For Tanzania, there's no immunizations required anymore.
Ah,
They've
okay.
relaxed that. And it also depends on the country you're coming from. I mean, the country you're coming from sometimes may require it if you go to a foreign country, and especially if when you're coming back, so to have been vaccinated. But Tanzania itself does not have a requirement. The immigration, they have a fee to get in to the country, and it's like $50 per person. Unless you're a U.S. citizen, then it's $100. Well, for some reason, I guess. Yeah, our Canadian friends that went, they all got to pay only $50, and we had to pay 100.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Randy.
Yeah, go ahead, Randy.
Hey, Michael, earlier this week, if you haven't, it's been in the news that Tanzania, they had a really contemptuous election. After the election, there's a lot of protests and hundreds of people were probably killed on both sides. Speaking of the people that were there, the locals that were working with you, did you hear any grumblings of what was going on? Because at that time you were within a month of the election of being there. I'm just wondering if you heard any discussions among each other, or maybe they informed the group what was going on.
Yeah, occasionally, but we would hear, little groups having kind of like rallies and things, but there were no really anything violent or that we encountered anyway. People did talk about it. We knew the election was coming up towards the end of October, like you said, and we were just a couple of weeks away. But then we had some communication back with some of the guides and things that we had during our time over there after the election, and they did say it kind of pretty much shut down the country as far as no phone, no internet for a while. The whole tourist industry was interrupted, so if anybody had planned a safari or anything like that during that time period, then they ended up having to cancel probably. Well, they did. And so nobody was going into the country during several weeks there. I think it's pretty much back to normal now. So hopefully I guess I think actually Lars is leading a safari here pretty soon back to Tanzania. So hopefully that's opened back up. Yeah. But it's, I guess, fairly typical of some of those countries that there's can get really contested.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
This is Jody. Can I ask another question?
Yeah, sure, Jody.
Well, you mentioned that the Chinese had improved the roads and everything for tourism. Did you see other international travelers while you were there?
Mostly Europeans. I don't remember seeing any other U.S. or Canadian there that I recall at any of the places we stayed. The following week after the safari, there were six of us that went on down over to Zanzibar, a little island off the east coast there in the Indian Ocean, and spent a number of days, 6 days. And even there, yeah, most of the tourists were European, French, German. There were no Americans or Canadians that we encountered during that time.
So do we get part 3?
But yeah, I guess it's just, it's close enough for Europe that you can get there in less than 8 hours, 6 hours, something like that, 6 to 8 hours. I mean, from here, if you remember when I talked about going over there, it took me close to 30 hours to get from Houston to Kilimanjaro.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much. This has been really terrific.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Last chance. Anybody, especially anybody that hadn't had a chance to ask a question.
Al,
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
thank you for this documentary. Really fantastic. Great. Mine is kind of an unusual question. I'm a sucker for souvenirs when I usually go somewhere. Were there places that had souvenirs, but what not in your postcard and photos or stuff like that? Were there any unusual type of souvenir shops?
Yeah, there were places where you could go in and buy things made out of local materials. Tanzanite, it's some kind of gemstone. So there were Tanzanite jewelry was big at some of the places. Black market could get ivory, things made of ivory.
Oh, wow.
But yeah.
And Michael, how about for money exchange? Did they accept a greenback or you had to have money exchanged?
Yeah, we did everything in US dollars. Paid everything. Well, if I used a lot of times, if some places would take a credit card, so I would use credit card because I didn't get charged any kind of fees for using my credit card.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great question. All right. Well, if nothing else, I appreciate everyone joining me this afternoon. Thanks for spending a couple hours on this Sunday afternoon. Yeah, just a real enjoyable time. If anybody has questions later on, you can always email me, text me. I don't take phone calls, but you can call and leave a message if you want to say something. I'm still celebrating my birthday. If you want to wish me a happy birthday, okay.
Happy birthday, Michael.
I celebrate until the new year. So. Just kidding. But appreciate all of you guys. Love you. Thanks for being a part of this.
Happy birthday, Michael.
Happy birthday, and thank you so much for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like I was there.
Thank you, Michael.
That was so awesome.
Thank you, Michael, for the
Thank you,
documentary.
Michael.